My name is Chad Hoover.
My name is Brandon Overstreet.
My name is Russell Dillon.
My name is Alfonso Jack.
My name is Lisa Bennett.
I'm Jack Schorr.
Cody Prather here.
My name is Matt Ball.
My name is Josh Carter.
My name is James Bush.
My name is Luke Stocking.
My name is Jeff Jones.
Brian Volpe.
My name is Jeff Hodge.
My name is Kevin Franklin.
My name is Jamie Clancy.
My name is Lonnie Ellaby.
My name is Randy Howell, and you're listening to the Faith and Fishing Podcast.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Faith and Fishing Podcast. I'm your host Cam, and we've got an awesome episode for y'all this time, but before we jump into it, we've got some housekeeping stuff to go over. First, I wanted to give a quick shout out and to say that this episode was made possible by Podmatch. Usually when someone says made possible by like that, they're usually talking about a sponsorship of some sort. This time, I mean literally would not have happened without it. You see, Podmatch is a service that matches podcast hosts with potential guests. A while back, they reached out to me, and I signed up just out of curiosity and to give it a shot. The way it works is you set up a profile as either a guest, as a host, or both, and that service matches you based off of the questions you answer. Well, this episode's guest and I met that way, and it ended up being an awesome fit. Now, this episode isn't sponsored by them or anything. I just wanted to give them a shout out because, like I said, it worked for me. And if you're interested, you can go over to podmatch.com and sign up. There's a free version that limits the number of matches you get per day. And there is also a paid version as well. There's a bunch of features to it, and a lot of them that I haven't even scratched the surface on yet. But I just wanted to let you know about it. I also wanted to let you know about some things coming up for the podcast. First, be on the lookout for a very big Christmas giveaway that's going to be coming up over on the Instagram and Facebook accounts. I'm excited. I know we just did a giveaway. Congrats again to I Wrestled a Bass Once on Instagram for winning that one, and another big thank you to Jade's Jigs for making it happen. But that's just how the timing ended up working out, and you're definitely going to want to check it out. It's going to be a big one, like I said. Another thing to let y'all know is that I will be taking a break from putting out new episodes for a little bit during the holidays after not this one, but the next. So there will be a new episode December 7th, and then that will be it until probably middle of January or so. It's a long break, but there are going to be some things I'm working on before coming back into it. One of those things, and something for you to look forward to, is that I'm going to be adding something new to the lineup. So in addition to the every other Tuesday episodes with guests sharing their faith, once a month, right now I'm thinking first Tuesday, we'll be doing Faith and Fishing Live over on Instagram and maybe some other platforms depending on the feedback that I get from y'all. But what I'll be doing is I'll be doing some Q&A and discussing a topic that I get from y'all. And the audio from that live stream will be recorded and put up as a podcast episode. So make sure y'all send me some topics. I'll also be asking for topics on social media in the coming weeks as we gear up for it. But go ahead and get excited about that. Before we jump into the episode, I did want to get y'all caught up on how fishing has been going for me lately. In addition to the little lunch break trips here and there, I've been able to, I was able to get out for my birthday and was able to get a hold of a nice 5-pounder and had a good time getting out on the water with Paul Roberts, who is at Paul Heels on Instagram and the co-host over at Bass and Brews podcast. But yeah, I had a great day. I also learned from a mistake that I made, which I will now share with you so that you can learn from my mistake. All right, so for this Learn From My Mistake, we're going to be talking about Savior Outdoors, which I know we have done before, and it doesn't mean that that Savior Outdoors is difficult or anything like that. It just means that I am not good at maintenance. So we're going to be talking about maintenance. So what happened on my birthday fishing trip was whenever I reached behind me and pulled out one of my rods, the treble hook on the bait grabbed another rod and pulled it out of the rod holder, and it went down into the water. I wasn't worried about it because it had a savior on it. So I sat and waited for a second, and then waited some more, and then waited some more, and realized that float wasn't coming up. At first, I was worried that maybe the float got caught under the weeds, but I kind of pushed the weeds aside with my paddle, trying to find it. Could not find it. So I tried fishing for it for a little while. Ended up giving up, going to go sulk for a little bit. Paul ended up coming over to help me, and we did our best. We fished for it. We tried to find it on his fish finder. We tried just having him go over it and kick it up with his Hobie, and that may have ended up being what happened, because eventually I was able to find it by kind of digging down into the muck with with the tip of another rod, and finally was able to bring it up. So first, a big thank you to Paul for helping out with, for being willing to help out there. But yeah, so I was in about 4.5 feet of water, and I wasn't sure what happened to make the savior not go off. So I contacted Corey, and he reminded me of a video that was put out that I watched whenever it came out. But and it was about maintenance. So long story short, here is the maintenance that you can do. I'm going to say once a month, go ahead and just blow into the bottom of the savior. Blow right into the float. If air goes into it easily, that means that it's good. That means that water's going to get into it. And there's some other maintenance you can do to make sure that the salt tablet is good. But for this particular issue that I had, again, it was an issue that I had because I did not do the maintenance. This is the maintenance that you do. So blow into it. If air goes into it, it's good. If it feels like you're blowing into something solid instead of like a sponge, pop the little plug off, and past the filter, there is a little screw, and you loosen that screw until you can blow into it, and blow through it, and then water will be able to get through. What happens is the spring that's in there, as it pushes and pushes and pushes, it eventually creates a seal. And I was told, had I have been deeper, maybe 6 feet or so, the pressure of the water would have overcome that seal anyway. But because I was so shallow, the pressure of the water just wasn't enough to get in past that spring, holding the plug sealed. So yeah, learn from my mistake. Do your regular maintenance. Again, every month, just blow into the bottom of the savior, and it will let you know if you need to loosen that screw. So I went ahead and did mine after that, and so I have seven or eight saviors, and all but one of them needed to be loosened. So had I have flipped over my kayak and lost all of my rods, only one of them would have for sure sent that float up. So yeah, make sure you're doing that regular maintenance. Now let's shine the product spotlight on a bladed swim jig. Get Outdoors Pedal and Paddle in Greensboro, North Carolina offers a huge variety of kayaks, kayak accessories, stand-up paddle boards, and bikes and biking accessories from all your favorite brands like Yak Attack, Bonafide, NRS, Bending Branches, Kayak Cushion, Perception, Native, and many more. Get Outdoors offers demo days, rentals, repair and outfitting, expert rack installation, as well as courses to get you comfortable in your new boat. Check them out at shopgetoutdoors.com or stop by the shop and tell them Faith and Fishing sent you. All right, if you follow me on Instagram, you have heard me talk about Mr. B's Lures before. Mr. B Lure Company makes a bunch of the jigs, like the swim jigs and the flipping jigs and the football jigs. They make spinner baits and buzz baits, underspin swim jig heads, but my favorite that they make is their version of the bladed swim jig. So most bladed swim jigs have the blade attached directly to the jig head. If it's a Z-Man, it is literally directly to the jig head. If it's another one, it's usually there with a split ring. But what the Mr. B does is out of the point of the jig head, it's got a post of wire with a little loop on the end, and I would say it's probably 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch, and on the end of that is the blade. So the blade is out away from the head. So if you are looking for the tick, 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 tick of the blade hitting the head, you're not going to get that with the Mr. B, but you are going to get a really, really, really aggressive as it comes through the water. A lot of chugging, a lot of vibration, a lot of thump, and a lot of flash. They use a holographic sticker on their blades to make it give it even more flash. But the action that it gives is also it makes a big difference. So it's almost like a slithering action as it goes through, because the back it wobbles a lot more than a traditional chatterbait does, because it has more leeway away from the blade itself. So it's got a really good hunting action, and it's got, like I said, a slithering action to it. But it will catch you a bunch of fish. It has caught me a bunch of fish, and I really like it. But so they have a ton of different colors to choose from. They have your traditional ones like your black and blue, your white and chartreuse, and they have a bunch of specialized colors for to match crawls in a particular area. They have ones that are made for a specific body of water, but they also have one that's called Battle Shad. Now, Battle Shad is it's white and silver mostly, and it's a really good shad imitation. But what really makes this special is anytime you order from Mr. B a Battle Shad colored jig of any kind or lure of any kind, 30% of that purchase of those proceeds go to the Wounded Warrior Project. So not only are you getting a lure that you're going to be able to catch fish on, you're making a difference in the life of a warrior who's been wounded, a soldier who's been wounded overseas or wherever. So it's definitely worth it there. All right, so that is the Mr. B bladed swim jig, and let's get our guest introduced. All right, so as you are getting ready to hear whenever he introduces himself, our guest this episode, Mr. Robert Schorr, gives the guy from the Dos Equis commercials a run for his money as most interesting man alive. So not only is he a pastor, a missionary who's been over in Taiwan and started churches there, and in China, he's fluent in Mandarin. He's a pilot, and he is a fly fisherman who hikes in and goes for trout. So not only that, he's an author. He has written two mystery novels, which they have not made it into stores yet, but he has one in stores it's a children's book called Amal the Thirsty Gamal, and it is about a camel who is a little bit different than the other camels. It's got an awesome self-image story. It's got an awesome twist to it, which he has asked not to share, so I won't. But yeah, it's an awesome twist. It's an awesome book. It's got some amazing watercolor illustrations, and I will give links in the show notes to all of Robert's stuff, including his book. Like I said, it's an awesome book. We'll talk about that. Of course, we'll dive into his faith, and we'll get into some fishing stuff as well. So I hope you enjoy this one as much as I have. Jade's Jigs, based out of Southwest Missouri, make finesse jigs without the lead. Jade's Jigs are made with an eco-friendly tin bismuth alloy that weighs less than lead, meaning you can get the same water displacement and profile size with less weight on your finesse presentation for the fish to feel. Jade's Jigs offers a variety of styles, including Ned heads, finesse EWG heads, and skirted finesse jigs, and they are ready to ship, so you get the custom quality without the custom weight. If all of that wasn't enough, they flat out catch fish. Head on over to jadesjigs.com, that's JADESJIGS.com, to see what they have to offer, and since you are a Faith and Fishing listener, you can use promo code FNF10 to save 10% on your order. Robert, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here today.
Absolutely. So to get us started, go ahead and introduce yourself to our listeners and tell us who Robert Schorr is.
Well, I'm from Southern California. I was born in Orange and grew up here all my life. I went to lived in Anaheim a little bit later, and I'm a pastor of the Calvary Chapel Church in Old Town Orange, California. That's a mid-sized church, about 400 members, perfect size in my opinion, and it's been a wonderful ministry. I'm kind of retired, semi-retired now. I switched roles with my assistant pastor just last year because I'm 72 now, and still preaching off and on, but he's now doing a great job leading everybody, and the transition's been real good. And it's a real sweet church. I love it. It's been a great part of my life. Prior to that, I was a missionary in Taiwan for 17 years. We lived in a little town north of Taipei for about 11 years, and then moved down to a Hakka village and started a church there among the Hakka Chinese for the next 5 years of it. And that was quite an experience. So I was busy doing all that all the previous years. And when my wife and I and my two boys came back from Taiwan after 17 years, I started pastoring that church in Orange. I'm a private pilot. I got my license when I was 61, I think it was. And I love doing that. I love hiking. I love fishing. I love hiking the Sierras and fishing. I'll tell you about that a little later, I'm sure. And I love literature, and I love writing. I've got a couple mysteries I've written and hope to someday get on the market. But the first little hook I've got going is on my little children's book. And I think that's pretty well covers me.
Awesome. So one of the things I'm excited to talk about, we don't get to talk about this much, but you are a fly fisherman.
Yeah.
What was it that got you into fishing?
Oh, well, yeah. When I became a missionary, I had to travel across the Southwest to visit churches that wanted to support me in Asia. And that meant every Monday and Wednesday, every Sunday and Wednesday, I would go to a church and speak and share our mission and get their prayers and stuff. But in between Wednesday and Sunday, kind of free. Sherilyn and the boys were out here in Southern California getting their schooling done. But I had this kind of itinerary. And so I thought, I'm going to start getting into fishing. I'd done it before, but I'm out there just west of Albuquerque and White Sands, New Mexico, and Payson, Arizona, places like that. I found this most marvelous fishing and started with just a fly in a bubble to begin with, and just absolutely loved the thrill of deceiving a trout with an artificial fly. So nothing quite like it, in my opinion. Well, jigs are good too. I have to admit, but I'm kind of partial to the fly, I have to say.
Absolutely. So we are going to get back to fishing in just a second, but I definitely wanted to talk about your children's book, Amal the Thirsty Gamal. So it came out in September, is that correct?
I came out July 6th.
July, okay.
Yeah.
I found out about it in September. That's what it was. But yeah. So let's dive into that a little bit. Kind of give us the basic premise of Amal the Thirsty Gamal.
Okay. Well, I was sitting in my Hebrew class in seminary out here at Talbot Seminary, long ago, and Dr. Curtis introduced the word Gamal as part of the vocabulary for some verse we were studying, and I thought, Gamal, how cool! Oh, that's a neat name. I think I'm gonna write a story about Amal the Gamal. Sounds cool, and it just means Amal the camel, but that's the Hebrew word, and it's also the Arabic word, and I'm not sure exactly if it's identical, but very close. The word also means gift, by the way, so it's kind of got a double meaning to it. But that was the inspiration of the idea, and I've been very busy with my pastoring for years and years and years, and I just let it sit there on the burner. But finally, started to come together, and I wrote the poem, got it all completed, and then in my church, I found Christina Kunstman, a dear friend of mine. I knew she was an artist, but I didn't know she was capable of doing children's art, and beautiful illustrations like that. She really worked out good.
Yeah, she did.
She jumped in, and during the COVID months, we both worked on it, and I would tell her what I wanted on each page and what I was hoping to see, and we had a lot of fun. Just there wasn't much else to do during the COVID period. Our church actually did
Right.
stay open during it, even in violation of the law, I'm afraid. But we did a very careful, good job of it. But we had Tina and I had a real fun time just putting it all together. And it's about a camel who doesn't have a significant, it has a very insignificant hump, and looked down upon and told he'll never survive in the wilderness because his hump is too small and he doesn't carry enough water. And I'm not going to give away the climax of the story, but there's a nice twist to that. He gets called into duty on a journey going westward with a group of wise men to a town called Bethlehem, and there he struggles with that terrible journey, so afraid he's going to perish along the way. And I'll let the climax come by itself for the reader, but at any rate, it's a lot of fun, and it's sort of a book about self-image and things like that. I don't hammer on self-image a whole lot, but it's a big deal for kids, and
absolutely,
kids always worry about how they're perceived by everybody. And,
yeah, absolutely.
And the thesis of my book is that camels do too. So
yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. It's got a really fun rhyming rhythm. It reminds me in terms of the rhythm to it. It reminds me of the Lorax.
Yeah, I like the Lorax.
It's got that kind of same rhythm to it. And you just didn't have to make up words to make it work. But Dr.
Seuss does wonderful for that.
Yes, he does.
Well, my book does have some hard words in it, and I've been challenged on that. Like, what age group is this? Because look at the words you're using. And I often thought of Dr. Seuss, like, he didn't seem to hesitate much. And
right.
Yeah. So.
And what is the age? What is the age, the target age range for this one?
That's a tough one. I listed it 6 to 12 because I know my granddaughter could read that at 6 and get it. And there are words in the book that are going to challenge a child. Well, even the word, myrrh, for example, magi, right?
Right.
So, but the kids pick these things up, and so 6 to 12, I listed it just to be fair, because anyone under 6 will struggle with the words, but I think they'll also be captured by the rhyme a little bit, just the sound and the fun of hearing the sounds and the pictures. And they'll get the story. I'm going to be reading it at Barnes and Noble just in a few weeks, and I'm going to probably do a dual reading where the really, really young ones I'm going to stop at each page and just sort of explain a little bit for them.
Okay, absolutely. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
I have found that with an 8-month-old, I am rather used to board books. So I was kind of taken aback at how long it was, and then I realized, whenever I picked up the Lorax, I was like, well, that's about the same length as the Lorax. It's just.
Oh, is that right? Yeah, the length has been another issue that brought up. It is a little long.
But yeah, like I said, I'm used to board books, so if there's more than 4 words on the page, I'm like, whoa, that's long.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, again, you mentioned the illustrations earlier. They're beautiful watercolor illustrations, and I agree, she did a fantastic job with it.
Yeah, that's Tina Kuntz. Yeah. A commercial artist in her former years, and doing a lot of fun art now, just more whatever she wants to do. So wonderful girl.
Absolutely. If you would say one takeaway you want readers to take from your book, what would it be?
I think just I'd like to have them, in addition to enjoying the simple story of the animal, is just to catch a little of the awe and the mystery of the Christmas story. There's I hint at it. I don't really proclaim it much, but in the story, a traveler shows up from the west while the caravan is resting around a campfire, and he says, "A king has been born in a manger of hay. It's a strange way to come, if you ask my opinion, with no palace or splendor or signs of dominion. But that's what they say, a manger of hay." And with the wise man goes, this journey grows stranger the further we go. And that and the myrrh, and sprinkled through the story, there's just a sense of mystery and wonder to it. And I hope they get that. I hope they find it captivating to them. That's
awesome. Absolutely. Yeah. I think you did a great job weaving that story into it. And like you said earlier, the self-image theme and message behind it is also, I think it's going to be really powerful for a lot of readers. So,
oh, that's good. Yeah, I appreciate your assessment of that. That's good to hear.
Absolutely. So, so this book is at the store I work at. Where else can listeners find it?
Well, it's available online real easily. It's on Amazon, and by the way, there's a plush toy to go with it, which is really, really cute. We had it made. It's a little camel with a thirsty look on his face and a canteen around his neck. And it's called the Amal the Gamal plush toy. It took me it was real hard to get it listed on Amazon, but I got it done. And you have to kind of search for it right now. I hope as people keep doing it, they'll couple the two things together, the book and the toy. But if right now, I think if you look for the book, Amal the Gamal, A Christmas Tale. Oh, sorry, Amal the Thirsty Gamal, A Christmas Tale. And then if you type in Amal the Thirsty Gamal plush toy, you'll find either one of there like that. And I think eventually it'll tell you, people who look for this are also looking for that. But it just came out about a month ago, and that's really fun too. And then it's available at Barnes and Noble, and I'm trying to get bookstores to shelve it. It's published by Mascot Books, and that's a hybrid publisher, so they don't do all the marketing. I have to do some of that myself. That's actually true about every publisher these days. The
Right.
author becomes a marketer. It's like very tedious. Of course, if you're really famous, you don't. But if you're like me, you gotta go do some work. And so I love the thought that the store you work at has got it. That sounds wonderful.
Absolutely, and I
I'm going to
will
call them and thank them.
absolutely. I will leave links in the show notes for the listeners to be able to go straight to it.
Oh, that'd be great.
But yeah, I definitely want to also ask you about your faith. So,
Yeah.
what's your faith story? How did you come to believe what it is that you believe?
Oh boy. Yeah, I love telling that story. I grew up in a Christian home. My dad was an alcoholic, and he was a good working alcoholic, but he was so far gone into it, my mom was ready to dump him. This all happened when I was little. I was like 3, but my siblings all saw it more than I did. But he woke up one morning with a terrible hangover and said, I'm going to go. He picked up the newspaper and it said, the Reverend David Hood from England is preaching at the First Baptist Church in Orange. And he said, I'm going to go to this church service. And my mom literally thought to herself, I hope he never comes back. And my dad went down to that church. And if you need to know my dad, but to get the import of this, but he's not a demonstrative man. He stood up or walked forward or did something, came home that day, said, I'm a Christian now, and I'm done drinking. And he never touched a drop the rest of his life. My whole family was blown away by it. And like I said, I was 3. I had to sort of learn about it a little bit later. But my older brother and older sister would stand in awe when my dad would be heckled by my Aunt Audrey and her rich friends. Come on, Jack, you're just wrecking the party. What do you mean you just want orange juice and that kind of stuff? And so we watched this transformation of my father. You would think, wouldn't you, that I would just believe with no questions asked. But in college, I completely rebelled and gave it all up, and just turned against the Lord. Couldn't stand Christians. I was an arrogant, self-important, intellectual, so-called buffoon, and just going my own way. And I had married Sherilyn, and she was a Christian, and she was trying to help me come to the Lord. But I was angry about that. But my life was kind of falling apart, and I was starting to sense that a little bit. But I had this encounter with the Word of God is what happened to me. That's my faith story. Right in the midst of that rebellious period, this nerdy friend of my wife's, who also went to my college, Cal State Fullerton, came up to me and said, hey, I hear from Sherilyn that you're a literature major. And I go, yeah. And so I really didn't like this guy at all. And he said, well, no, that means then that you certainly have read the world's most influential book, the book that has changed the entire course of human history, right? And I go like, okay, whatever, And I said, I haven't read it to a great degree, no. And he says, how could you call yourself a literature major and not read this book? You go home and start reading the Gospel of John. And I had to admit, it was a rather persuasive argument. I did acknowledge it. Yeah, it is a big book. I didn't say that to him. I just snubbed him on, but I went home and thought, okay, I think I will do that. And that was, I loved, I was a literature major and a philosophy minor. And I loved deep things and mysterious things. I tried to read the Tibetan Book of the Dead and all the Buddhist stuff and all that. anything mysterious and deep that I couldn't grasp would command my attention. And so I turned to John, and I found it and started reading those opening verses of the Gospel of John. Like, oh my goodness. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. I stopped right there and thought, wow, okay. I mean, I had thought that the Bible was just like a big collection of do's and don'ts, don't have fun, don't be free, I mean, I've had quite a prejudice against the Bible. And I was finding myself admitting, like, well, I have to admit, this is rather profound. What does that mean? The Word was with God, and the Word was God. And I couldn't claim to quite comprehend that, and I was telling myself that. And he was in the beginning with the Word, and all things were made through him. So now the Word was a person. And I was telling myself, I'm not comprehending that. And when I got to the 5th verse, I read, as I was telling myself that, I read, the light shined in the darkness, and the darkness did not comprehend it. And I kid you not, I felt like I had been pierced with a sword. The verse was just telling me, you are that darkness. And it was my very first encounter with the power of the Word of God. It was just overwhelming to me. I didn't pray or anything. I didn't give my life to Christ then. But a few months later at a Bible study, I did. And that's what we read in Hebrews 4:12 that the Word of God is powerful and living and sharp as a two-edged sword and able to pierce to the very depths of men's hearts and souls, and is a discerner of the thoughts and intentions of the heart. And that night, reading that passage, even grudgingly, I felt like it wasn't me reading the Bible. It was like the Bible was reading me. I just felt this something there, and so that's what I love to share about my experience with coming to Christ. I went to a Bible study with a bunch of college kids later, and he preached on Daniel and Nebuchadnezzar, and I gave my life to the Lord there, just quietly prayed and surrendered my life, and it's been a beautiful thing ever since.
Absolutely. And what was the call like to become a pastor and a missionary? When was it that you decided to chase God all over the world?
Yeah, that's a good question, because before I became a Christian, I became real infatuated with Chinese and Chinese things, and I was reading Chinese literature, and I wanted to read it in the original. I was actually studying Buddhism at the time, and things like that. But just in all my intellectual pursuits, but I was studying Chinese, and my college didn't even have Chinese classes, so I was going up to UCLA and auditing a class, and purchased the Yale University textbooks on Chinese, and later when I became a Christian, my pastor would say, "Well, what are you doing with the Chinese?" And I go, "I don't really know. I just like the Chinese literature stuff." And later on, he said, "Well, I do know a college over in China. Maybe you should think about going over there." So that's kind of how we got started. I often tell people that the language is so hard to learn. The Lord got started with me before I even became His, and just got me starting on language study early. And but we packed up and took our two kids at age 1 and 3 and moved to Taiwan. And I was the professor of British and American literature in a Christian college just north of Taipei for a while. for about 12 years or 11 years, I guess it was.
That's
And
awesome.
then later we moved down to a Hakka village where there's a real strong group. It was an agricultural town. It's a town next to our neighborhood was in a village, but a town right next to it. And the Hakka are wonderful people. They're just very conservative, and they're kind of an unreached people group. Not so much anymore, but at that time they were. And we started a little gospel center there, a youth group, and it was really, really a beautiful experience.
That's awesome.
And, the church is still going. It's got a Hakka pastor now, and doing pretty well. I'm really worried about people in Taiwan right now with threats from the mainland, but got a lot of dear Christian friends over there still.
Absolutely. And I have to ask, while you were over there in Asia, did you do any fishing?
I did. It's like, oh boy. Yeah, it was not easy. Because I would see when we moved down to that Hakka town, there was a mountain range right behind us, and there was rivers, and I caught these little fish, and I don't even know what they were, but there were no trout, and there are some trout way up high, and you can actually Google trout fishing in Taiwan and find an article of people who have done it, but I never did get to do that. But pretty meager stuff. And once in a while there would be I'd hear stories of, oh, those ponds are all been electrocuted. You know, you can't. There's nothing there now. It's like there was environmental disasters galore with people shocking ponds and getting all the fish out at once and things like that.
Right.
But these days, I'm sure it's a lot better now.
Okay, absolutely.
I miss that a lot, though.
For sure.
And then we would come home on furlough, and I would do that traveling, like I said. That's when I really got into the mountain stream fishing. I love it.
Absolutely. So, one story or one question I always make sure that I ask all of my guests, it's become a favorite, for, both listeners and myself. But I wanted to make sure I get to hear your answer as well. What fishing story or memory means the most to you?
Well, yeah. Well, I've got a couple, but one of them, I started tying these flies from Rene Harrop. He's out in Idaho, and he's got a fly shop, and he ties flies. He and his son and his wife, I think. And he published in a fly fishing magazine this the recipe for a caddis. And so I started one time before we went out to Colorado. I started tying those things up. He used the CDC feathers, Calder Canard feathers that have a lot of oil in them. Keeps them afloat, and they just land real nice, and they look real lifelike. And so I tied these things up, and they just look beautiful. I had a whole box of them, and we got out to Gunnison, Colorado, and I went back to a favorite fishing spot that I've tried many, many times and had mixed results with. And there's a little bat cave on the Gunnison River, just west of town, and a little rest area there. You can park there and go hike along the river. I threw that thing in that one year on the Gunnison River and got to strike the first cast, and 2 or 3 casts after that, I'm bringing in this great big old rainbow, and it's like, oh, what a beautiful experience. I'd never forgotten it was a thrill. And I think it's my favorite story. Well, there's another one, if you can bear another story. It's got a little bit about my faith, quite frankly. My favorite thing to do in fishing is solitude. You know, I heard you talk this morning on your podcast. I think it was today's podcast. I've listened to a few now about solitude, and I totally share your view of that. I love solitude when I fish, and I go on this solitude hike, and it's quite far into the Sierras, and it's off trail, and it's got me by the Paiute Creek. Go hike over Paiute Pass and camp near the creek, off trail, spend a week just all by myself. I love it. But one of the first times I went in to do that, I had an incident, and I'm pretty convinced I've seen some kind of angelic beings or something. I don't want to insist on that, but I know because it can sound rather flamboyant, but I'm convinced it was something from the Lord. But what I do is I pay a packer to take my pack in for me nowadays, because I'm coming up from sea level. I live near the ocean. And so I would go up to 9,000 feet to the trailhead. I'm not ready to do that with a pack. So I pay a packer, and he puts it on a mule, drops that pack at my destination, way in, off trail, secret spot. And then I hike in and fly fish all the way up. There's like 8 lakes on the way, and I just have a blast all day long. Well, this one time I went to a different place, and that was a little unnerving, because every time you go to a different location, like, boy, I hope I could find it okay, and it's wilderness. And so and my packer wasn't there. His brother was there, Mike Morgan's brother. And he said, "Oh, you'll find the place. Don't worry about it. You just get to the trail. When you see the waterfall behind your back shoulder, you just go off the trail and cut down there and get to the creek and cross over the creek and just take a few more steps up creek a ways, and you'll see the pack." I say, "Well, hold on just a second. Wait a minute. Tell me again. How am I going to find this pack?" And I had him repeat it a couple of times, and he very impatiently insisted it was going to be really easy to find. And I finally just acquiesced and said, okay, let's go. And so he took off and dropped my pack, and I'm hiking in fishing, and I'm having a blast and catching trout and stuff, and didn't keep them because I'm hiking, but about 3:00 I'm starting to worry, like, man, I hope I do find that pack okay, because this is a new place for me. And I get up there at 4:30, and it's deep within the mountains, and it's already getting a little bit dark, and I get to the creek, and I cross over the creek like I thought he told me to do, and there's no pack. And I had, for that day trip, I had a long sleeve shirt and 1 peanut butter sandwich and nothing else with me but my fly gear. And it's going to get down to 25 degrees that night. And I'm starting to worry. I mean, this is a big wilderness, and there's a chance of me shivering all night long in the wilderness with no sleeping bag, no tent, no nothing. And I'm starting to really get afraid, and it's getting dark. And finally, I frantically comb the shore of that brook, and I finally, just in desperation, cry out and say, "Oh God, help me!" And I kid you not, Cam, the minute I said that, the second I said those words, I heard a voice saying, "Are you lost? Are you okay? Are you looking for your pack?" And I look up, and here are 2 men standing on the edge of the river, the creek there. Just, as far as I knew, I was alone. I hadn't seen any man. Once I went off trail, I hadn't seen anybody. And I said, "Yeah, I know where I am, but I can't find my pack." So, "We know where it is. Come on back across the creek. You shouldn't have crossed the creek." And so I go back, and I start to cross the creek, stepping across the rocks, and the one guy suddenly calls out, "Don't step on that rock." And I put my pole down. That rock right up ahead of me was rocking back and forth, and I get to the other side, and these 2 guys are there, and they're immaculately dressed in. I know I sound like I'm exaggerating, but this is the truth of it. They're dressed in like new Orvis gear. Just look like they just came out of an Orvis shop. And for the life of me, I wanted to just reach out poke at them and see if they're really real. Because by that time I was like, who were these people? They just appeared on the shore that the minute I cried out. It was so uncanny how suddenly that prayer was answered. And they said, we passed your pack a few minutes ago, and it's over here, and we were wondering where you were. And I said, well, where are you guys going? Well, we're heading up that way. And he points to the top of this meadow that rises, like a meadow climb up to the top at Golden Trout Lake. And it's 5 o'clock. It's getting dark, and that's there's no trail there. And they're going to continue off trail into the dark. And it's like, okay. And so they did. They crossed the creek, and they said goodbye, and I thanked them. And wow, I'm not kidding you. That night I sat down after having my dinner and my nice warm tent and my sleeping bag all ready to go, and just thought, what was that? What were those people? I mean, I'm personally convinced they were angelic beings of some kind, but if they were just human beings, they were sent by the Lord, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
It saved me a pretty frightful experience.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So I have to admit, fly fishing is a completely foreign thing to me. I know very little about it, so I don't have a ton of questions relating specifically to fly fishing, but I know enough to ask this one. Do you prefer dry or wet flies?
I do like dry because I love the way they fly, they land, and of course you have to know the occasion. I mean, if the dry flies aren't working, if there aren't any insects landing on the water, then they're not going to work. But when they do, they're awfully fun. I mean, there's nothing more fun than seeing a trout jump out of the water and catch your fly in midair before it comes floating down. You catch
That's
that
awesome.
thing. Yeah, it is. It's a thrill. It hasn't happened very often to me, but a few times it has.
I think it doesn't matter what kind of fishing you do, whether it's saltwater, freshwater, fly fishing, conventional fishing. Top water seems to be the most fun.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love it. It's that electricity that goes through you when you feel that strike.
Awesome. So,
Yeah.
I know you said.
I'm not much of I don't know much about you guys and your field at largemouth bass, and I felt kind of ignorant when I looked at those pictures of those monsters you guys are bringing in on your website. I recognized the largemouth bass, but what's that big long one you caught? One of your most recent pictures. It looks like a pike to me almost, or something. What do you know which one I'm talking about? Yeah, that's kind of a pike-like snout on him.
It might have been a chain pickerel. I've caught a few of those.
Yeah.
I don't know which one it was, but yeah. That might have been what it was.
I wouldn't even know what to do with if I caught one of those things. I gravitate towards streams, and that means they're not real big, not too big, but I love the peace and the solitude and the environment of the stream fishing.
Absolutely, and I know you're a solitude guy, but if you go fishing with someone, what are you typically talking about? What's your conversation centered around?
Oh, we try to joke a lot. And, yeah, I go with people once in a while, and I go with my son, and we have a really fun time. That's really good for us. We miss doing that. So I'm not always craving solitude. I've got some really dear friends of my church that like to pack up 40 guys and go camping and fishing together. And it's like, no, Tom, I can't do that. I cannot do this with 40 men. But, one or two people, I like doing that way. But, well, we with my son, we talk about science and math because he's a math and science teacher, and I always want him to just empty his brain and tell me everything he knows. Since I don't have the patience or the intelligence to study it on my own, I want him to condense it for me, give me the cheat sheet.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, with all of our guests, we have a segment that we always do, and it's called "What's Your Favorite?" It's self-explanatory. I'll ask you your favorite in a few categories.
Okay.
But just get it started off, what's your favorite scripture?
Oh boy. Well, I think it evolves from time to time, but I think the most recent one lately is one I seem to be sharing with everybody, and it means a lot to me too. Psalm 34:18. The Lord is near to the brokenhearted. He saves the crushed in spirit. Actually, I love the whole psalm, but it seems like that's become awfully relevant these days.
Absolutely. What about a particular story from the Bible?
I would probably, yeah, that's a good one. I think the thief on the cross.
Okay, absolutely.
Yeah, that promise to this man who, as far as we know, I mean, we don't have record that he ever did one good thing in his whole life.
Right.
We only have a record that he did bad things, and he didn't go to church, and he wasn't baptized, and so much for thinking that those things save you. And he had a friend who hated the Lord and abused him to his very dying breath. But this man amazingly cried out and recognized, Lord, remember me. And it's like, how did he, where's the lordship? What is he looking at? He's looking at a condemned criminal, according to the world's view, a man being executed. But what a story. What a beautiful message there.
Absolutely.
Just cry out. And there's no purgatory. Today, you'll be with me in paradise.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
All right. So, what's your favorite fish to catch?
Oh, the golden trout, no, hands down. It's such a beautiful thing. It's usually a native trout and not planted. Although they do sometimes plant those now, but and you have to be a certain altitude to get them. And there are pockets in the Sierra Nevada that have them there, and it's just a thrill to get your golden trout. I do surf fish, and I've caught corvina, I think is with a V. I get mixed up. I'm not a real expert on surf fishing, but and that's a nice fish to catch. And I catch some bass in the surf, but they're little. I'm a perch and bass, and but they're little, and they're nothing real spectacular. But I love that golden trout.
Absolutely.
There's a beautiful golden side to it, and the skill that it takes to pull one in, to get one is kind of flattering. But actually, the more solitude you go, the easier the fishing gets too. They're not all spooked.
For sure.
That's kind of nice. Yeah.
For sure. What about your favorite fish to fish for?
Favorite fish to fish for?
Yep.
Well, I think it's the trout. Yeah, I like the cutthroats up in Colorado too. Those big, beautiful trout with a slash across their gullet.
Absolutely.
And, yeah. So.
And what about your favorite fish to eat?
Oh boy, yeah. It's no longer trout. I'm afraid I've kind of become a little tired of that. But I love sea bass. That's a great fish, and I do like salmon.
Absolutely. And how do you like your sea bass cooked?
Oh boy, anything with I like anything blackened.
Okay,
And, yeah, I
absolutely.
love blackened fish, but anything with a pepper sauce too would be good.
Awesome. And while we're talking about food, what's your favorite fishing snack?
Fishing snack. Oh, hmm. I don't know. I guess it's jerky. That's usually what I take. So
Absolutely.
I like candy bars galore and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah,
For sure.
yeah.
Um, so you prefer like beef jerky, turkey jerky, venison jerky? What's your go-to?
Oh yeah, I think it's beef jerky with peppery beef jerky.
Awesome.
Yeah, yeah, and then wash it down with a lot of good candy bars and things.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I won't ask for any GPS coordinates or trailheads or anything like that. But what's your favorite body of water to fish?
Okay. I think it's the. I'll give it to you. It's Paiute Pass, and it's an easy pass out here in the Sierras. It's not too challenging for my age. I can't do the strenuous trek. But Paiute Creek on the other side of that pass is beautiful, and it's in the Humphreys Basin, and it's just a wonderful, beautiful creek. But boy, I love the Gunnison River, and I love the creeks all over Leadville, Colorado, and in the Rockies, just everywhere. I like Gore Creek Trail outside of Vail, Colorado. So
Absolutely.
lots of places.
Awesome. And what's your favorite lure? I mean, fly to throw.
It's the caddis, but I like all the dry flies. Simple's the better though. Some of them look a little silly and elaborate to me, but I still like the old Adams fly. I think it's a wonderful device, and but the caddis is my favorite of all time, and I'm using it all the time. And it's that Renee Harrop caddis. Harrop is HARROP. Let me see here just a second. I wrote it down. No, I didn't write it down. HARROP, or maybe two P's. I can't remember.
Okay.
In Idaho, and he wrote the book Trout Hunter.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
all of his flies are wonderful. They're just they really cast well, and then if you can get the ingredients in the recipe, as I call it, they're fun to tie too. They're not too challenging.
Absolutely.
That's my favorite of all time.
So whenever you go out fishing, how many different types of flies do you usually take with you?
Oh, I take all these things, and I have this big loaded, bloated fly vest, and I end up using like 2 flies out of the whole thing the whole day, and I don't know why I keep bringing them all. It's like, I guess you think, well, you just find yourself skunked on all kinds of flies and have to do that, but it usually turns out not the case.
Well, it sounds like you're not that different from us bass guys after all.
What do you guys do?
We bring everything we own and
Yeah, right.
and never cut off our lure.
Oh yeah, that's right. Well, if you don't lose that lure, I admire you for that, because that's something I do a lot. When I use a lure, man, I snag that thing and have to yank that line off, and
Yeah,
that's a real skill to keep that thing moving just right through the weeds and the grass and stuff.
or so either we bring everything we have and never use it, or we bring everything we have and we change lures every 30 seconds. It seems like so.
Yeah.
It seems like there are a few people that don't do one of those two things in the bass fishing world, but
Yeah.
but yeah. So
Well, there's no. Do you fish bait too?
yeah. So I like to fish bait whenever. So I'm not that far from the coast. Whenever I'm fishing the surf,
Oh yeah,
I like to soak bait there. I like,
but I meant freshwater.
yeah, I like
Is
to fish for carp and catfish and
Okay,
and
so you need to use bait for that. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, there are guys
Do
who
they-
catch carp on fly, but I haven't
Yeah.
dabbled in that yet.
Yeah. Yeah, because the lure and fly do have this in common, that it's a real active form of fishing, and it's almost a kind of hunting.
Yeah, absolutely.
You place it and locating your prey, and whereas the bubble and the bait type thing is kind of a different breed of fishing altogether.
Yeah, for sure.
It's too sedate for me.
And
I love the hunting aspect of fly fishing, and lure fishing is the same way. It's so thrilling to get a strike with one of those things.
And there are other, there are times where you catch carp or catfish or other species by accident while you're targeting bass with lures. But if I'm targeting them specifically, I'm using bait most of the time.
Oh yeah. Well, some of the best fish I've ever eaten in my life was catfish from somebody who caught some out in Texas. It's like, man, that was really good, and I've never been able to duplicate that ever since either.
Yeah, definitely have to. For me, for catfish, you have to use a lot of seasoning, and you have to deep fry it.
Yes,
but
that's what it was.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he had like a 40-gallon drum he was doing something with. I don't know how much oil he had in that thing, but he had it down, and man, it was good.
Absolutely. And last but not least, man, what's your favorite time of year to fish?
Oh, I think it's the fall. I love the fall, and that's kind of ironic because as much as I like dry flies, that's when you start using a wet fly. That's when you start using a beadhead nymph.
Okay.
And we were out west of Los Alamos, New Mexico one time visiting a church, and after the service was over, I said, let's go up to the mountains and fish, Well, my host was he was a fisherman, and he said, well, it's going to be snowing tomorrow, it's early snow, it's fall. It wasn't winter, but and we were up there, and I can't remember the name of the river, but just west of Los Alamos, where they developed the atom bomb, And so we didn't have any flies, so we got Sherilyn's sweater and picked off the fuzz off her sweater and made some beadhead nymphs that day, that night. And because I had the beadhead, so I didn't have the dubbing. And so we went out, and sure enough, it started snowing, and we were standing in the creek fishing and getting skunked on everything else, and finally, let's get these beadheads going. We got those beadheads out, and man, we just started catching them. It was really fun.
That is awesome.
Very gratifying. In the fall, you need to get the nymphs going.
Absolutely. Well, man, we're going to start winding down. If you would, what do you have coming up for you?
I'm just kind of keeping busy. I'm still working at the church and doing visitation and preaching occasionally and teaching Bible studies. And for my little book, I've got bookstores asking me to come and sign and read the story to them, to the children's hours and stuff. And that's a lot. I'm having a lot of fun with that. So it's all pretty tame stuff. I have to stay close to home and be here for my wife, help her with her caregiving needs. So I don't get to do much more than that, but I'm enjoying life, and we're doing okay. We're doing good.
Absolutely. And did you have any sponsors or supporters or anyone you want to say thank you to?
Well, I just thank you. I'm really thankful for my church and all my wonderful church family here. They'll probably be tuning in, and so say hi to them. And I'm going to get the word out. And thank you, Cam, for having me on. I'm just really grateful for the privilege of sharing with you tonight. And
Absolutely.
for getting my book in your bookstore, that was really, I wasn't expecting that. That's a privilege for me. So.
And real quick, if you want to shout out social media, website, all that good stuff, how do people follow you so they know when the next book comes out?
Oh, yeah. You can go to my website. Thank you for that. It's my Facebook page is called Amal, the Thirsty Gamal, Gamal, and Amal, like the name, the Arabic name, and that's my camel, and so that's the handle for my Facebook and Instagram, and I've got a little promo page there for that. And then I do have a literary website that I publish, and it's called the Morning Frigate, Frigate, like the boat, the Morning Frigate, and it's got articles about literature, because that's one of my passions, and they can find that on just Google the Morning Frigate, they'll find it, and they can Google Amal the Thirsty Gamal. It's all over the internet now. So
absolutely,
there is no frigate like a book to take you lands away. This is Emily Dickinson's poem. So I've decided to devote a little weblog to kind of like what you're doing with your podcast, to books and literature and favorite things in literature that I like. So
absolutely,
yeah. Thanks for letting me share that.
Absolutely,
I would have forgotten to do that.
For sure. Well, Robert, thank you so much for coming on the show. I've really enjoyed it, and I feel like we barely got to touch on a lot of other things. I mean, we didn't even talk about the fact that you're a pilot. So,
maybe some other time.
We'll have to have you back, man. Savior Outdoors means peace of mind out on the water. Savior makes retrieval devices for fishing rods, bow fishing bows, action cams, and more, so when you drop your gear in the water, you can get it back, meaning that you don't have to panic when your gear goes in the drink. Check out SaviorOutdoors.com, that's SAVUR Outdoors.com, to learn more and to try them for yourselves. And since you're a Faith in Fishing listener, you'll get 15% off of your purchase whenever you use promo code FNFP15. Another huge thank you to Robert for coming on the show, sharing his stories with us. If you want to follow Robert's adventures, I will leave links in the show notes to all of Robert's stuff, including his literary blog, where you can purchase Amal the Thirsty Gamal. And I will also leave links to all things Faith in Fishing, Mr. B. Lure Company, Jade's Jigs, Savior Outdoors, Get Outdoors, Pedal and Paddle. And I tell you what, I will also, for all you podcasters out there, just in case you're interested, I'll leave links to Podmatch as well. So that's going to do it for this episode. Y'all take care, and God bless. Thank y'all for listening to the Faith in Fishing podcast. Be sure to give us a rating and a review if you enjoy the show. And follow the show on Instagram at Faith in Fishing Pod or at Facebook.com/Faith in Fishing. Be sure to reach out to one of the amazing pastors in your community if you have questions about faith, and make sure you join the Faith in Fishing community on Facebook. Special thanks goes to Tyler Worrell, the graphic designer behind the Faith in Fishing logo. The Faith in Fishing podcast is produced by Cam Steele, and the music for the show is written, recorded, and performed by Jonathan Antholansey and Cam Steele. Thanks again for listening. Y'all take care, and God bless.